Wayne Stewart, welcome to Franchisee Fastlane. How are you today?
Good. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. 10735 Newnan, Georgia is your store. Tell us a little bit about the store.
This store was, I believe it was, if you want to go all the way back, the store opened in '98, I believe. It was
Okay.
under Steve Minnick's leadership for, I think, roughly, well, 22 years, maybe something like that, somewhere around there. I believe that the store's success is still driven by Steve's example and how he trained us and how we picked up the baton and continued moving with it. And we're even experiencing a baton passing, currently in some areas to keep that going, to keep the legacy going. Um, One thing that I can say that our store, there could be many things that we could touch base on. Um, I believe that the success of the store has been driven by good leadership and customer service. And there could be many different branches that could go off from there, but those are the two, uh, the points that hold everything together: customer service and good leadership, and of course, finding good employees.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're definitely going to get into all that. So you were working at the store before you became franchisee, correct?
I actually opened the store, and I
Oh,
don't know if
wow.
you
Okay.
knew that or not, Todd, but
I
uh,
didn't know.
it's something that doesn't come up often. But those were during my younger years. Didn't really have much direction for myself during those years, but I did. Uh, I was here the day that they opened. I
Wow.
remember painting the rails of the pit and hanging shelves and that sort of stuff with Steve. Of course, I didn't. That wasn't a long-standing employee. As a long-standing employee during that season of my life. However, I went through some difficult times in my life that um, required me to go on vacation several times at a younger age. And when I come home that last time, I just wanted to be back in my area with my family.
Yeah.
Um, and with that being said, I remembered the type of um, boss, leader, mentor, whatever you want to call him, that he was to me during those years that I was harder to be around. And because of that, I was reminded that I, I wanted to do something different with my life, and I found my way back here April of 2008. Um,
Okay.
was gone for a couple of years between 13 and I think 13, 14, somewhere like that. Came back around 2015, and I've been here ever since.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I did not know that you opened the store. Were you an automotive technician? Were you lube tech? What was your first role in the store?
Started in the oil bay.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
Started in the oil bay and just got a taste of each position that was in the shop at that time. And as we made new positions, I would uh, fill the role of that too if needed. And so I have had the privilege of being in every position that the store has, except for the front counter. I'm not a good front counter person. I like to roam free.
Well, I could understand that. Yeah, that's crazy. So you literally are. We talk about from the oil bay to owner. That's you. That was
Yeah,
a lot of ups and downs and twists and turns, but that's great. That's a great story.
it's
Um,
it's
so
been a blessing.
how much has the store changed between when it first opened and where it is today? I mean, I know obviously sales are radically different, but just in terms of other things that you notice, what's different now?
Customer service has never changed. That
Okay.
if it has changed, it's developed to be better and better. And that's every team member plays a part in the whole of that. The obviously the technology is very different than it was then. But if I had to say, how does the store operate? There has been some changes for the better as we have progressed and as we have adapted, but there's a lot of things that are very much the same. Good work atmosphere between the employees, great customer employee relationship, making sure that we go the extra mile. If for whatever reason there's been a mistake that's been made, then if we have to, we'll go to the location rather than wait for the tow truck. A lot of the things that I do today, I do second nature, or firsthand nature by what I watched for so many years as Steve. It just become part of how we do business today. So a lot of logistics and a lot of technology differences, car count, that sort of stuff. But the core values are the same.
Okay. Yeah. So would you say the core values are the same? How about the actual business model? Is it the same in terms of how you get cars in, how you get cars through, that type of thing?
Well, I do remember Steve was, and I didn't understand it early on then. Some of the things that he did would frustrate me, but it was because
like what?
I can remember a time in Steve getting the business off the ground. He was more about trying to build the relationships with the people before we began ramping up, very large repair orders that are common, especially nowadays. Automotive repair is not cheap, and if it's done right, that's a factor as well. As far as the business model, customer service has stayed exactly the same. As far as the repair side, I remember what I was going to say was I got a little off track. I remember that there was a cap, dollar figure wise, that Steve would not go over.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the figure was. I think it might have been somewhere around $750. That was in the late 90s, early 2000s. But I didn't understand what he was doing in the moment. And I don't think it was that he was scared. That's not what it was. It was more about making sure that the customer clientele was built on a solid foundation. As far as that was the tech side, as far as the oil change side, some of the things are very much the same, although we do things a little different as we've adapted, meeting the customer on the lot with a format. That's everyone's responsibility, from the owner to the general manager to a technician to someone from the oil bay. If we see someone pull up, walk out there and get them, take their keys, get them going, and then they can go inside and sign in. As far as like when it's raining, we walk out there with the umbrella and get them out the car. We will pull up backwards how we typically will to get them to the front door so that they don't get wet going out, that kind of stuff. And just over time, the oil change side and the repair side has become almost two different stores under one roof. Two different parts of the store under one roof.
So talk about that a little bit. How are they different?
Here's the philosophy on the two different parts. I think part of the problem, and I don't know if that's the right word to use, I think it definitely is the right word to use if it prevents you from growing. And the problem is this. I think many automotive repair facilities are so driven on trying to draw in the repair customer. Because for a while, well, they produce bigger tickets, they produce higher profits, they
Yep.
they help pay the bills easier. The list could go on and on. That there's so much progress that can be made over just several repair orders over a week's time that we forget about the oil change customer.
Right.
And here's why that's a problem. Most people that have automotive repairs, their engine's running hot, their brakes have locked down. Repair wise, you're probably going to see that customer once to twice a year at best.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but if I go to my church home once or twice a year, it's going to be hard for me to build relationships with people that I am doing life with, or in this case, doing business with.
Yep.
That's not the case for the oil change customer. Most people, if they are obedient to what they should be doing, they're going to be getting their oil changed anywhere from 4 to 8 times a year, maybe, depending on how they drive.
Yeah.
At least 3 or 4 times a year. And so what does that do? Well, it's a low stress visit for the customer. We've always been very good about having the lowest price oil change in town, best value, let's say. And you're going to be able to get to know those people on a much regular basis under low stress settings. They're going to see how the people are treated every time that they get greeted, and they're going to be able to see how everyone is treated as they're sitting in the waiting room waiting for their car to be done serviced. And it's cookie cutter every time. It's not bland or just generic. It's a genuine experience. And so what happens? Well, eventually something's going to break. That's just the way life is. And so if you've had this customer that's come in with the best value in town, the oil change, they've got to know myself and Kyler and Julie and the guys in the oil bay. They built a relationship over a period of time, and then something breaks. Then they're in a much better position to trust and see the values of us. They already know, they've been exposed to it, and then you cater to the repair customer. And so over time, you're building the relationship with the community, and they're going to start talking. And so when the repair work comes in that we need to help do business, pay the bills, keep our employees paid, and take care of our customers, it becomes much more easy to approach and be successful at it because the relationship's already been solidified.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're saying that when it comes time for a repair, which is obviously a bigger ticket, if you've built that trust in the oil bay over time, they're much more it makes your selling easier. Is that true?
It's almost, sometimes it's, and I don't want to give a false impression. Sometimes it's just too easy. It's just, sometimes it's the relationship's there. I can always remember when Steve was here, there would be many times that I knew what needed to be done with a vehicle, and I knew that what needed to be done, how it needed to be priced up. I knew that I could sell it. And sometimes Steve would simply say, when you walk in there, just simply say, Steve said. And it was done deal. And what that means is that that's all they needed to know, was the man that they had built a relationship with and understood as the owner, Steve said, and knew his values and knew his integrity and his, and all that. And so I'm going as an ambassador for this person who's built these relationships, and all they need to know is Steve said. I find myself doing the same thing today. The employees would say Wayne said, or Kyler said, or Julie said, and it's the same thing that's been going on here for many, many years. That's just developed to where we're at now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a great point. So, were you at the store or working at the store when you guys first hit $1 million in sales?
I left. Let's see here. I left the store that year at the end of 2013. I think that is the year that we did it. 2014. 2014 was the first year that we did it. I had left in December of December of 2014. So I had left right there before it was hit. And yes, I wasn't here the day it happened, but I was here 90% of the year. I
Yeah.
had
So
left that year to go pursue full-time ministry, and it was just time for me to go. And but they did do it was a good year, because the year before that we missed it by $8,000, and so it was good to
so
get back.
so you obviously have a chart on the wall that shows sales per
Yeah.
year. That's what you're looking at. So
delivering great customer service is always important, and it's really the keystone to what we do at Precision Tune Auto Care. So, Kyle, what are some things that we can focus on in those areas?
Todd, one of the things that constantly pops up in our positive reviews from our customers are courtesy, staff, and friendliness. And this is really one of the great things that drives customers towards us. And it's one of the reasons that customers even choose Precision Tune over any other lube service or dealership service that they could take their vehicle. I think one of the easiest ways and the best strategies for enhancing this customer service experience for our customers is what I like to call the name game. Okay. And so I find that our most successful and our best franchisees often know many of their customers by name. Now, they have earned these rights through a lot of times many years of knowing these customers, but there's also a way we can cheat the system, so to speak. So one
Okay.
way is to make sure we're tagging cars with the customer's name and not just with the car. So for example, you might have a 2008 Camry. And so instead of saying, oh, 2008 Camry, you're up for your oil change, you might say, hey, Mrs. Jones, your 2008 Camry is ready. We completed that oil change, just to add that extra layer of customer service and let the customer know, hey, we don't care about just your vehicle, but we care about you as a person. And that'll keep them coming back to us for a long time.
Yeah, that's a great strategy. I bet that works pretty well at the store level. I know customers always enjoy hearing their name. Getting to know people on a first name basis is always important as well. So,
Yeah, it's one of the main drivers of business for us is definitely referrals and family. So if you can imagine if someone says, hey, I know the manager or I know the owner of this car shop, this auto shop, that definitely is going to be a huge factor in whether or not a person would choose to patronize that business if maybe they're looking for a new auto home or a new place to take their car.
looking at. So
Yes, sir.
so in 2013, were you aiming for $1 million? Was that a goal that you were trying to hit?
Absolutely. I think the only store that had in GEI, I think the only store that had done it at that point, and I may be wrong on this, but I think I'm right, was Douglasville.
Okay.
And we were back and forth with Douglasville for several years, and it was healthy competition, and it was good people. They were a good store. Douglasville is, and certainly was during that time, and so it was kind of a healthy competition. We was back and forth with it.
Okay. So what did you guys do to hit $1 million? Like, what were you focused on that year? Was it specific types of services? Was it, kind of walk us through how to hit $1 million from your perspective?
Customer service is got to be at the top.
All right. So for people who are listening to this, watching this, and you say customer service is at the top, and they're saying, "Oh, come on, man, it's got to be that's not the right answer." What do you say to that?
I'd ask them what their sales look like. And, that
Okay.
I would be where I would start. I'd have to get a dynamic of the DNA of their store.
Yeah.
I think that if you want to go to 2 million or whatever stage you're at, you have to
Right.
retain what you've got and build upon that even more. But you have to retain what you've got, because I can look back and remember the years that were, it was 700,000 and then 800,000 and then 900,000 for a couple of years, and then we got up to 993,000 and then finally a million. Here's what I'll say about the figure 1 million. It's just a figure. Now it's an accomplishment. Okay, let's not downplay that. It is an accomplishment. But and I can tell you that from experience, later on when we get into it, when we did 2 million, I was very driven for just that and that alone. And I can tell you that I lost myself along the way, part of that year, toward the end of the year. I don't want to ever get that narrow-minded with just a figure, because if I get that narrow-minded, then I begin losing the core values that's actually helping us get there.
Right.
But marketing was a huge thing with Steve. Huge thing. Making things right when things went wrong. Making things right when we didn't do nothing wrong. Getting over some pride and making it right anyway. Not letting emotion get blended into making business decisions unless it's a decision where emotion should be utilized. Just catering to the business and catering to the customer. That's what will get you to 1 million. Of course, intellect and experience and of course all those things will help get you there. But I believe that a man's own intellect will only get him so far.
Yeah. Well, you got to be able to fix cars. That's
sure.
Requirement number one, right?
That's right.
That's just the admission to be in the game, so to speak. But so customer service. The reason I kind of drilled down on that is because, if I'm out doing the best that I can do, trying to get to 1 million, I'm usually folks are looking for a silver bullet of we bought this machine, we started doing this kind of service. So to hear you say from someone who's been there, done that, still doing it, that requirement number one is great customer service, that says a lot. So
well, and talking about intellect, people are not going to care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so, of course, you got to have, and that's a dying breed in itself. The drivability technician position is, if you've got one, I'll say this: if you've got one, don't spoil them, but take care of them. Let them know they matter. Retaining employees is very much like retaining customers as well. You got to be able to. It's the same formula. It's just a different kind of way of doing things. I think keeping long-standing employees and watching them become caring about what they do for a living is also a part of it. It's like customer retention. It's employee retention.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that, because that's a hot topic right now. What are some things that you all do along those lines in terms of employee retention? What are things that you focus on to help make that happen?
Really genuinely caring about the employees, and it not being okay. I checked the box off. I asked them how, if I had a suggestion for someone who's struggling with, who's in leadership, a manager, owner, all of us should be reminded that they're helping us feed our families too.
Yeah.
So you got to get to know them. You got to know what's going on in their lives. You got to know what they're going through, what they're coming out of. You got to listen. You got to hear what they're saying rather than just, got to listen what they're saying rather than just hearing what they're saying. And then be reminded of, sometimes I have to just sit down and think about things that people have told me so I can remember, right? Because it'll go in one ear out the other unintentionally. Not that I don't care. It's just, living a fast-paced life like I'm used to. Sometimes I have to sit down and remind myself to check in on people. If I get to the end of my day and I noticed that one of my employees was kind of just dragging and, just didn't seem like himself, I'm the type of person that has been shown that it's important to shoot that person a text maybe at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. Pray for your employees if that's something that you do if that's something that you do. And it's not necessarily something that you have to tell anybody about either. Making sure that production is rewarded. Making sure that they have a clear plan of where we are now and where we're going. I think that if, without a vision, my people perish, right? And so they have to know where we go. We're not trying to just fill jobs here. We're trying to build careers out of people. I look forward to the day that we start sending people out of this store to go have their own, project, whatever it is. Have the experience under this roof to be able to send them out and maybe be management somewhere else or possibly start a new location, whatever the case is. It all starts here. And so I have found that if people just know that their security is first in place, that they're not stuck in a dead-end job, that raises financially and opportunities is a big thing. Not just money is not just everything. Making sure that people have the knowledge of knowing that this job is not going to steal your family. Giving people the opportunity to have a couple of days off, and to have some real downtime with their family and loved ones or whoever, or maybe just have an opportunity to rest. Giving incentives when needed, giving bonuses when needed. These are hard decisions to make in the moment, but anybody that's been doing this long enough knows that once that decision is made, even if it don't look right on paper sometimes, deep down that it was the right decision. Just quick side note on this. I could camp out on this all day. I got a guy here that literally, he's been with me now for almost 3 years or so, going on 3 years. He literally walked in here with the clothes on his back.
Wow.
And did not have nothing. And this guy right now, 3 years later, has all the tools that he needs. He's not in debt. He's got a brand new box down there that's a manageable payment. We're working on helping him find a house, meaning not renting. But probably one of the highlights that I've had with my employees, and I shared this at the last Christmas dinner with our team, was two things that I can remember. He walked up with me with tears in his eyes, happy tears, with a little piece of paper that said that I got my license back. I remember what that was like, not having a license, being dependent on everybody, no matter where you went. And then shortly after that, because of the ability that the company is able to provide for him, because he works hard for it, being able to walk out and walk around his new used F-150 that I think was a 2008 model, something like that, F-150, and him walking me around the vehicle, just as proud as he could be that not only he got his license back, but now he doesn't have to walk to work, he can drive. Man, that right there for me is the pay. So Sometimes that is the pay for me, being able to get reward like that, because not only does it let us know we're doing the right thing, it reminds me of where I come from too.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. So when it comes to goals within the store, is everybody aware of what you're trying to do each year, each month, each quarter? Break that down for us a little bit in terms of how much information do you share with the team, and how does that break down?
I think that being transparent as you possibly can be is key.
Okay.
I do think that for owners and even general managers, that there are certain things that you just don't disclose, just because, one, it's just not relevant sometimes for people to know, and then
Yeah.
they may not understand what you're trying to show them, and then two, I mean, like maybe your profits and distributions and that kind of stuff. That's not necessarily for everyone to know.
Sure.
However, I will say there are some people here that understand what the profits look like on a 5 payroll work week. They need to
Okay.
know that
Yep.
the spending needs to be down to a minimum on those months to buy all the extra stuff in the month before that. So
Yep.
and so you're teaching them business, you're training them, and at the same time you're cultivating the culture that this is an open book.
Yeah.
So if you was to walk down there and ask any employee, what are we trying to hit minimal each week? And right now we're kind of in a down season because we need one more technician that will get us
Okay.
back where we need to be. So we want to have reasonable, realistic goals here. Right now, if you was to walk everyone, what are we trying to do this week? It would be 40,000 minimal.
Okay.
We want to get back up to 300 cars per week. And we want to do more than we did last year. I'm finally getting to a place. I'm getting to this place to where I want to not necessarily look at the year's ending sales to date, but maybe be more sensitive to bringing home more profits, even if that means that the year-to-date sales are lower.
Okay.
Because I've seen that
All right.
before.
Yeah.
I do know the year after we first did $1 million, the very first year after we did $1 million, the store did 843,000 the next year after doing $1 million, and Steve Minnick said that the store took home more profits that year than it did the year before that.
We're all about profit. I'd much rather see every store be more profitable, because that means you guys are going to stick around for a long time, which is great. Just like you said earlier, just chasing the number and burning yourself out or not doing it profitably is not a winning formula by any means. If I'm a franchisee and you're talking to me and you want me to understand why it's important that what may seem like a luxury, it really is a necessity, what are you going to say to me? What's your elevator pitch on why leadership development is a necessity, not a luxury?
Well, I would ask them just a simple question. How well do you know people? And of course they'll give me an answer. Most of them will say, well. Now, how do you know that you know people well? So I would begin to engage questions like that. Leadership is important for one reason and one reason only. You can only lead to the level that you know people. And once you begin to know people and grab the art of knowing people and leading people effectively, then it's then I'll ask the simple question again: how well do you want to grow? Well, we need people to grow. We can't grow stores by ourselves. So, and with that, you're going to have to definitely develop a culture of knowing how to lead people effectively.
Yeah, that's really important, because it is people on the employee side, but it's also people on the customer side. Exactly. I mean, we are definitely in a people business. So,
and the great thing about it, one thing real quick, Todd, I was sharing with the manager, a leader. He himself he was really great. He was a people person, but
Yeah.
he didn't train. He didn't know how to train his people and his mechanic, his tech, and his customer service person to be effective. So he was losing customers and didn't even know it. They were only coming when he was there, and if he was off or not around, they didn't want nothing to do with the store, and that's a problem.
All the team knows kind of what you're shooting for, what you're aiming for. You're incentivizing those folks. So that's kind of your outlook on the team. So you mentioned you were short one technician. What are you doing today to find that person?
Indeed is something that we're doing right now. I will say this: Indeed is expensive, but it does get you people to comb through that will allow you to be able to continue production and allow a platform to be able to pull those people in for you. But Indeed, as I have found, is expensive. But if you're very busy, time is money. I would encourage Indeed. Um, Not all general managers or owners are local to their store. I'm blessed to have that here. I'm local to my area. This is my home. And so sometimes social media, just standard Facebook post. Um, and here's a big one. Have a good relationship with your tool man, your Snap-on
Okay.
rep, your Matco
Yep.
rep. They're going to every shop in your area all week long, and they know everything about everybody and what's going on. They also, well, if you have a good relationship with your tool man, they may try to steer you away from someone you might not need to be hiring.
Right.
Or they know the reputation of the person. So the tool man is a good nugget to keep close by if you have that type of relationship with your tool guy.
Yeah, no, that's a great point for sure. So let me shift gears a little bit, because some of the folks who are going to be watching this are new or prospective franchisees. What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about getting into the automotive repair maintenance business as a franchisee?
Start with the end in mind.
Okay. What does that mean?
Well, I think you gotta have a vision.
Okay.
Why are you doing this? Why do you want to get into automotive repair? If it's just for the money, I don't know if that's a very good reason. If it's just for the money,
Yeah.
why are you wanting to plant a business that is a difficult business at times, very well rewarding? I think three things that stand out to me is to stay humble.
Okay.
If you've got mentors around you, stay close and remain teachable.
Okay. Yeah.
I think in the automotive field, there's a stigma that happens sometimes where we think that we have got it all figured out. And anytime someone may be willing to give us a suggestion on how to do something, whether it be how to fix a car or how to fix a problem with a customer, or maybe how to fix some numbers or some profit margins or whatever the case may be open-minded to what's being told to you, especially if it's someone you trust and that knows that they have their best interest for you. Know that there's going to be times where there's people in place in every position that you need, and then there's going to be times to where the buck stops with whoever's in charge or whoever's running the show. And that might mean that you got to make some sacrifices that you don't want to make. It might mean that we have to be more intentional with our families, consistently. So when these things do happen, it's not such a blow to the family.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So what we haven't talked about yet, we're bumping up against time here, is from going from $1 million to $2 million. What were your biggest challenges in doing that? And we didn't even talk about this. Newnan it's the same footprint it was when you opened it with Steve, right? It's 6 bays, not a lot of parking. It's not, you don't have a 8 or 10 bay store that's doing 2 million. You've got a 6 bay with an oil pit, right? So you got 4 bays with lifts and 2 bays with a pit. And
we have 2 bays with lifts. We have a flat bay. We have an alignment rack bay, and then we have the oil bay.
Okay.
So we've got the oil bay. We've got on the back 2 bays left to the pit. We have 2 lifts. The very first stall is just a flat bay that we do things like AC services and that kind of stuff that doesn't need a lift. And then you have the alignment rack that doubles as an alignment rack plus, a rack if we need it for like brake repairs and that sort of stuff.
Sure.
Right, just 6 bays.
Yeah. So obviously, we'll just take for a given that trying to figure out how to route jobs through 6 bays to get to 2 million. That's we could spend an hour talking about that. But just talk about the mental or staffing or motivational challenges of going from 1 to 2.
Okay, so staff is, and by the way, it takes the staff to get to 2. We would have never been able to do 2 with the staff that we had at $1 million. So I'm learning that the numbers are just a byproduct of what's going on. It's not the prime product. The numbers are the numbers reflect what's taking place. The numbers don't dictate what we do, and so the numbers are just a reflection of the image of what's going on here. And so at 1 million, you had Steve the owner, then you had myself as the manager, you had a service writer, and then you had a technician, and then you had a main technician, and you had a technician that doubled in the oil bay, and then you had two more people in the oil bay. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 people, and now we have a full staff. We have 12 people. 12 people. 11 people. When we get our other technician, we'll have a dozen people here.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then mentally, what was the challenge? Like, how did you get yourself there? Get yourself and your team there?
Well, I remember one particular instance with Randy looking over payroll. And as an employee, I'm on payroll. I'm an owner, but I'm also still a full-time employee that gets a paycheck each week, right? And so I think it's very important that if you're getting into this thing, you're like, I want to be a trailblazer for the right reason, not for your own selfish pride. I want to be a trailblazer because I want to benefit the company. I want to benefit the company as a whole. I want to benefit the company as a whole. I want to have a selfless motive here. How do I do that? Well, your employees are a part of that. So, with that being said, I remember sitting in front of the computer one time, and we needed more people, and I had a budget. It wasn't a surprise budget. It was a budget that we had been at for some time. Right. Yeah. And where we're at, I need some more people. Randy, I got to hire some more people. Randy's like, that's fine, but just make sure that we stay, within, we got a business to run. And so I'm sitting here, and Randy's sitting in the same room with me. He's not saying anything. He's just working on some other things, and I'm working on this, trying to figure out, and I'm looking like there's no way to make this work. And he's like, well, maybe you should go down on some of your people's pay to make it work. I'm like, we can't do that. And of course, he's saying that theoretically. He's allowing me to figure it out myself. And and it hit me that the person that needed to go down on their pay was me.
Yeah.
That was very difficult. Now you're talking about several $100s or more a week, just to make this work. And so what he was teaching me is something that I'm grateful that I learned very early on with Randy, is that I think so many people get to a scarcity and an abundant mindset, and through their own intellect that will only get you so far, they get to a place out of their own motives and their head hits the ceiling and they can't go no further. And I see it all the time. And it's only because I've had someone mentor this to me to where I can see it. So many shops, and not just Precision Tune, but just across the board, they max out and they never get past that ever in their career because they're not willing to do something that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Giving up my pay in that moment up here in this office made absolutely no sense to me. And I wanted to know why I was the one that had to give up my pay if I'm the one that's the most dedicated here. And so what took place was this. I did just what Randy was suggesting, which was remove my pay.
Yeah.
And if we can go into it with the mindset of knowing that we find good people, we have quality work, I'm going to give up and I'm going to lead the way. I'm going to give up my selfish motives here, and I'm going to trust the people that I'm putting in place are not only going to produce results, but they're going to help me get the money that I give up to make the business better. And sometimes it evens up. I can tell you this: I've given myself 3 pay cuts, and this is not bragging. This is just being just as honest as I can be. I've given myself 3 pay cuts in the last almost 4 years, and I have seen very, very little in my pay. And I've had much more opportunities to do life with people like my family and people that matter outside of the business. And so sometimes that pay comes in different ways. So that right there is how we got from 1 million to 2 million, which was simply just being able to see the vision before you see it.
Yeah.
And know that it's going to work. I think scarcity and an abundant mindset separates the wheat from the tares.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's great. That's a great piece. That's great wisdom and great learning. So, is there anything that I have not asked you in our conversation today that you wish I would have? If so, what is it?
Okay. Speaking of business and growing to the next level, we are blessed from the studies that I have at least looked into when it comes to royalties and discounted royalties and 0% royalties.
Yep.
And that's not based on parts over 50 or anything. That's you just got to get the tires does have a little bit of an effect on that margin, but if you meet it, you meet it, right? So we had the opportunity for the first time 4 years ago to go to 0 royalties. For us, that's about $10,000 more a month that we got to keep.
Wow. Yeah.
Every dollar of it. I'm thinking, that first year, I'm thinking, man, I'm gonna be able to buy some
Merry
toys,
Christmas.
guns, and some, things for a motorcycle, and Randy, and again having good people in place. And even Daniel was kind of on board with me, and the leader sometimes is a lonely position, because they have to lay down what nobody wants to hear. And I'm so grateful that that's what we did, because we took every dollar that we had, for the most part, and put it right back into the business. Again, scarcity and abundant mindset. I believe that when you invest that type of money back into the business, it comes back somewhere else.
Yeah.
People are seeing that the building looks fresh. And so that's just, that's just an opportunity that we used that we didn't have to through good leadership. I wouldn't have known to be able to do that. I'd have deposited into, you know what I mean? As business owners, we have to know that part of keeping the business healthy and going to the next level is to reinvest back into the business. Hey, listen, it shouldn't be a special thing during this time and season that businesses are in right now to have higher sales. We live in a time right now where inflation is through the roof. We should all be making bigger sales simply because things cost more, you know?
Right.
But if you ever have the opportunity to enjoy that privilege that the franchise has, the company has for its franchisees, is to use it wisely. Use it wisely. Put it back into the business. Grow the business. I don't regret it, not one bit. That we used that for the business. It was the right thing to do.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's great. All right, Wayne Stewart, 10735, Newnan, Georgia. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate it, and Godspeed on your future endeavors. I know you guys are aiming higher and higher every year, so hope all that goes well for you.
Thank you, Todd. Thanks for having me.
Franchisee Fast Lane is a GEI production. Let's go make some money.